I particularly liked the Photoshop on that cartoon. That was flawless. It was great. All right, friends, time for another presentation. This time we have Nick Walker from Veolia presenting on regional collaboration. Can I please get you to put your hands together and welcome Nick up to the front? You can keep that round of applause going until he gets here. It's like, yeah, that's how you do it. There you go.
Thanks. I guess I've got to start with a story from this morning. I went home last night singly focused on Amy's direction around shirts. I guess the thing that I didn't really take into account was rocking up to a pre-start with 14 waste operators in the room and the amount of crap that I would receive in that 15-minute period. So thanks, Amy. That was a wonderful start to my day. I really appreciate it. Yeah. If I could just before I get going with the presentation as well, if I could just I guess say a few things with regards to some of the presenters that have presented this week. I think it's worth mentioning, Emma, what you presented the other day. Fantastic, good work, and absolutely keep it up. We need about 25 million more of you. You know, I think, again, easy for us to outright dismiss a story about nappies, but it's important because that's the entrepreneurial thinking that is needed at this point in time. It makes a big difference. And then I go back to Dean's words with regards to the export ban, and it would be easy for us to all sit here and say, like, you know what, that's Dean's problem. Let him worry about it. But he's right. It's not just Dean's problem, it's all of our problems. And if we don't find the solution, you know, Dean's problems replicated throughout this country, it's replicated throughout the world. Veolia has the same problems that Dean is currently confronting. So we all need to look at and see how we can be part of that solution as well. Before I get going with the presentation again, I just want to give you some background to this. So Veolia about 18 months ago engaged with the Big Rivers Economic Development Committee, and then from there we started talking about waste. I guess the primary issue started with the Katherine Town Council and the challenges that they have, and then it expanded from there. Veolia then started to look at similar challenges that we have confronted around the country. Australia is, as we all know, a very large landmass. You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing in places like Queensland and South Australia where remoteness of communities is the same challenge as what it is up here. And I guess the beauty of a company like Veolia is that you do get to look around the place. You get to look at, you know, what other countries are doing, what other localities are doing. So, you know, with regards to our operations at Shoal Bay at the moment, as an example, we're working off baseline models from our operations in Hong Kong. We're working off baseline models from our operations in Brazil because they're similar environments, they're similar operating conditions. So it's good to have that technology and that level of experience to bring to the table. So what I'm going to do is I'll start off the presentation with a video. And, you know, the recurring theme throughout this symposium has been around transport, logistics, cost. You know, how do you meet that challenge? What this video is going to show you is how Veolia has met that challenge in the Spencer Gulf down in South Australia, where we currently service about, I think it's 5 regional councils, and we've just brought on a 6th regional council this year. You'll see in the presentation that some of it is a bit of Veolia marketing guff. I want you to just try and look through that. And I want you to look at it in terms of a concept and just a very high level. So I'll get going with that. Oh. Go tell a joke.
Just give us 2 seconds. Oh, two seconds. All right. Hey, everybody.
How's the Excel spreadsheet go?
The Excel spreadsheet's going great. Thank you. Thanks for asking. I do have a bit about rubbish in my show, actually, but it doesn't really make sense out of context. It might be a bit weird. Try?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Let the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Hey, how do I jump into this bit without any of the context? Well, my dad's pretty cool. My dad's a handyman, so he likes to make things for fun when we were kids. Like all of our entertainment in the 90s was stuff that Dad made. Like we had a swing on the hills hoist. That was pretty cool. We had water fights, and not like with water guns. Dad used to get the fire extinguisher, fill it with water, and then pressurize it using the car engine. So most of our childhood water fights involved us like getting knocked off our feet with like SWAT riot techniques. They were pretty good. A kid called David came up the hill one year to join us in the water fight, and Dad just rolled him back down the hill. Like, oh, you want to come and play with the girls, do you, David? Get a job and a haircut before you talk to them. Like, he's a bit of a reckless man, and I think the one thing I really learned from Dad is the importance of family bonding. And for us, Dad every week made time for us to go on a daddy-daughter trip to the rubbish tip. That was our family bonding. I don't know, is anyone else, I mean, you all kind of work in this area, family bonding, go to the dump, that's what we did. Like every Friday we'd go to the dump and go and pick stuff up. That was what we did. I loved it because we got to like run over the scrap heaps, eat heaps of leftovers. We made tiaras out of barbed wire. It was great. We called ourselves the Disney Dump Kids. I was Rubbish Rapunzel and my sister was Junkyard Jasmine. So I do have rubbish material in my show. That's good. That's all. It gets really not appropriate for this time of day after that little bit. So I'm going to go and skip that. What else is appropriate? Don't hold back. No, it's really not for 10 a.m. It really is. Yeah, no alcohol, 10 a.m. Sponsored by anti-government. Lots of red flags. I could try this bit. Let's see. Because the thing is, you start it and then you get to the end of it and you're like, well, you shouldn't have started that. Has anyone here got a dog? Yeah, dogs are great, aren't they? Dogs are better than people, putting it out there. Dogs are way better than people. Like, this is great, but if this was a room of dogs, I'd be so much happier. It'd be so good. It would be so fun. And I think dogs are better than people because dogs have never done the bad things that people have done. Like, a dog has never parked in a disabled car park. A dog has never panic bought toilet paper. A dog has never left the country when it was on fire. But I think, what's the next part of this? Is that appropriate? Too late, we're into it now. I've got a golden retriever called Tully, who I adore. The best thing about Tully is that she's so excited to see you when she gets home. What was that? Oh, no, I thought that was a heckler. That was fun. She's so excited to see you when you get home that her entire body shakes, not just her tail. And she's like, left, right, like she doesn't know what she's doing. Like she looks like a L-plater trying to reverse park for the first time. And I realize now that I actually like my dog more than my husband. Does anyone else feel the same about their partner? Like it's a safe space, yeah? Yeah, I do. And I know for sure that I like my dog more than my husband because I let the dog do things that my husband can't do. Like the dog can leave a mess inside, husband can't. The dog can make eye contact with me while she poos. My husband can't. The dog can play with her bone on the couch. Husband can't. The dog once licked her own butthole so vigorously that she activated her own anal gland. My husband can't. Although it would be fun to see him try. Would have made lockdown really entertaining. Yeah, see, you start it and it sounds really sweet and innocent, and then it goes into anal gland, and you're like, oh no, you've said it now and you can't go back. Am I still going? Where the video working?
All good.
Good, great. Well, okay. Thanks.
How do you follow that? Done. Wrap it up.
Let's go meet Veolia.
Had 27 years of retail previous to working for Veolia. I've been with Veolia now for nearly 6 years.
My name's Paul Jefferson. I was born and raised on Kangaroo Island.
My name's Mark Inglis and I was born in Kimber a long time ago. I've been with Veolia for 10.5 years.
I've been working for Veolia for 3 years now. First in administration and then moving into sales the last couple of months.
My name's Perry Zimmerman. I've been with Veolia over 20 years. Be giving my age away now.
I guess at the moment we do a lot of front lift bins and Weiler for different companies. We also do a lot of grease traps and septic services. And
we manage transfer stations, we manage landfills, we own and operate landfills.
we have our set products that we do and services that we do, but if a customer comes to us and asks us something, we try to make it work for them because we are looking out for the customer.
Yeah, this is a 2014 Mack Trident, 500 horsepower, and I tow two 45-foot trailers, so my total length is 34.7 metres, and I tow general household rubbish and from the industry around Port Lincoln, the rubbish that they generate as well. Yeah, I enjoy driving the truck. Not much else I can say about it.
This particular homestead here was the hub of the Butler social scene years ago. There's a tennis court, beautiful gardens and surrounds. Yeah, and if you drove up the driveway, you wouldn't think there's a landfill hidden back over the hill. I mean, the landfill's super clean and super tidy. It's a credit to everybody who works out here. And this facility in-house is a credit to the caves and the people who owned it before us. And we're going to maintain it, look after it, and keep it to the standard it is now going forward.
Always sort of been on machines and sort of the site supervisor out here for the last few years, probably from about 2012, involved with the initial construction of the first cell and the second cell. The cell is basically what we are standing on now, where the rubbish is kept. It's a lined cell, so it's where all the rubbish goes, basically. It's a plastic liner with a clay liner and filter rock and cloth. So sort of seeing it go from basically just bare land through to what it is now.
I'm behind the scenes more than anything. I try to keep all the trucks on the road. We're under contract with councils and I give 100% to try and keep those trucks on the road. You know, if we haven't got vehicles running, then obviously the job doesn't get done.
Oh, well, without us in Port Lincoln, where does the rubbish go?
What we're sort of taking is probably 250 to 300 tonne per week that comes in. We layer it out and compact it up and cap it off with soil.
My responsibility in my position is to service our customers, make sure that they're benefiting as much as they can with our services.
Now, we get involved in anything that's non-for-profit and it's to benefit the community. We're happy to donate in-kind sponsorship. We also want to be a good corporate citizen, but it's more important to be a good community citizen as well. So
Veolia as a company supports a lot of local businesses in town. We get all our servicing and our tyres, etc. They're all bought from local companies in town.
You know, we've all got young families, which helps, and then Veolia are giving back with sponsorship with the small sort of sporting clubs around the lower area as well. So
you know, all our employees are long-term Wyler people. They've all got kids who go to school there. They've got family who live there, and you know, we look after our people really well.
It's a good place to work. The people back you up.
I enjoy the people I work with. Yeah, it's good to come to work.
you're not doing the same thing. You're not stuck inside. I like to be out and active, so it's good.
I just like meeting new people and getting out there and really finding out what they want and what we can do to help them. And
not too many jobs you can get out of bed every day and think, God, I'm going to work today and I like my job.
Okay, so I guess the key things that I wanted you to take out of that was, you know, roughly on a process of around 30,000 tonne per annum, there's a landfill solution. 2, there's a logistics solution. So the tyranny of distance can be overcome with the right type of solutions. The road train that you saw is a setup with a walking floor in it. It's aggregating waste from transfer stations where we're pre-sorting. So again, if you want to know why that landfill is so clean, it's because the waste that's going into it is pretty clean. So, and that's because of what happens downstream. Pre-sort, transfer station, into that vehicle, round to the communities, collection, disposal, proper landfilling activities happening. If anyone ever wants to go down there, so Meredith and Peter have been down, also the Lord Mayor Catherine has been down there for a look. Again, feel free to reach out, be happy to host anyone at any time. Getting back to Big Rivers and where we saw, I guess, a potential solution for their problem was we chartered a plane, and Hannah, who you saw yesterday, went around with one of our business development guys who coincidentally is now working for the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. But that aside, what they started to see was what some of those challenges were every time they walked into a community and every time they saw what the practices were, and then we relate that back to what best practices are and what that may look like. So Veolia then started to look at waste management techniques, the challenge around logistics, the health outcomes, which at last year's symposium were discussed particularly around, I think it was down around Alice Springs, and what are the employment opportunities that then stem from it as well. I'm not moving. Okay, no worries. So the intention that then arose from those community consultations was to look at localised transfer stations rather than localised landfill facilities, to look at how you can collect waste from those transfer stations. Look at, good presentation, Jana, but look at EPA accreditation, because again, as Jana said, if you're a local government, why do you want to have that problem? You know, look at de-risking yourselves. Employing local resources, promoting collaboration between stakeholders and councils, and the remediation process around current facilities as well. Just grab the next slide. So again, what these guys did when they came back from their trip around to the communities is they're going, well, there's not a standardised process for waste across all these communities. It's individually managed. There's collection services going on within community where councils are owning assets, but the assets aren't working all the time. You know, they're sitting on P&Ls, they're sitting on balance sheets, and then you're pushing into, you know, what the real cost of your waste is. And that speaks to the unutilised equipment and resources. Let's grab the next slide. So there was a lot of makeshift facilities, legacy waste piles, unlined cells, not a lot of compliance, and obviously we saw evidence, or Toby and Hannah saw evidence of waste that had been burnt. Just grab the next slide. So what we then came away with and said, well, you know, what is the solution? How do you do this? So it's managing the collection streams firstly back into community, and converting the current facilities into transfer stations rather than landfill facilities. You could look at large general steel bins. You could look at what you saw in the video in terms of road trains, walking floors. And across all those communities, what you looked at was the aggregation of the waste and how much waste every community could produce or does produce. Of course, we're trying to disincentivise that, but looking at the aggregate of the volume. Separate, recycle and dispose as necessary. Grab the next slide. And then it was pushing those opportunities, you know, not taking them away from communities, but pushing them back into communities. We were looking at environmental rangers, and environmental rangers are people who essentially work in their communities, educating their communities on waste and waste disposal and the best way to do that. Making sure there's full utilisation of current assets. Providing ongoing best practice training. So again, as I alluded to at the start of the presentation, you know, bringing those skill sets locally, nationally, globally. And Hannah also touched on that with the Northwest presentation yesterday. And using local labour wherever practicable to do so, and making sure that again, that IP is getting back into the communities. Grab the next slide. So the magic number, how much does it all cost? With an aggregated landfill facility, what it does, and this is what they found in the Spencer Gulf in particular, is it brought down their cost to each individual council, because what all those councils had done is they had looked at the aggregation of their total waste. It started to produce economies of scale at the landfill level, and then when they were coming across the weighbridge and what they were paying, they were effectively cross-subsidising one another. There is obviously, we still haven't finished trolling through the budget from a Veolia perspective, but there is intentions from a federal level with regards to waste in the Northern Territory. And the key aspect, and I guess from a Veolia point of view, we don't take a position either way on this, but you guys, particularly in remote communities, are going to have these multinational giants in your backyard soon enough, being Origin, Santos, Pangaea, and they're going to be conducting activities, and they're going to be waste generating activities. So there's the potential for private sector companies that need to dispose of waste in such a way that they are compliant, and they need to do that. The other aspect is that you have a big stonking defence base sitting around that is demanding of Veolia better solutions for remote and regional NT, because they don't like the solution that we're currently providing, which is pick it up in a bin and take it to Catherine. They want to see something else. So again, it's not then just back to the councils. You've got these additional players that are coming into the market and helping to bring down the costs of waste. Next slide, please. So I guess where we were at, we got stalled by COVID, unfortunately, but where we were at was looking at this from a cost model perspective. So understanding what the assets were that were sitting on the balance sheet, understanding, you know, what the real cost of waste was to communities, looking at compliance and understanding where we needed to be, and looking at the equipment ownership model. So I guess that's the high level stuff. You know, it was interesting for me, even as recently as yesterday, seeing the NT government's consultant up here and saying that the biggest opportunity in the waste industry in the Northern Territory is treating water. Well, they're right, it is, but guess what comes with treating water? It's treating waste. So I found it quite fascinating that that wasn't sitting right alongside treating water. You know, I mean, if we look at our experience offshore, we currently have sitting out in the Timor Sea scrubbers that are treating water, but guess what? The scrubbers that we've got treating the water offshore is also generating waste that has to come back to Darwin. So, you know, there was kind of that disconnect there, which I didn't quite get. Point being, yes, there are logistical challenges. Yes, there are wet season conditions. But if councils are able to work with one another and look at how they can aggregate their waste into a single point landfill facility, unfortunately they're a necessary evil still, then that's where we believe that the economies of scale will come in. Thank you.
Any questions, friends? Anyone? No?
Got off easy.
Yeah, there you go. You just waited a little bit longer.
Thought I was gone.
I think I know the answer, but is there money to be made with a private or an operator doing waste from collection from people right through to the end, and whatever you do with the waste, you know, send it to pellets or send it to whatever or whatever?
Yeah, well, the simple answer is yes. I mean, we're a commercial entity. We don't, you know, shy from that. We believe that there is economic opportunity there, and we would see that the investment, I guess from our point of view, we understand what's required in terms of landfilling. We understand, you know, if we were throwing a ton of waste on the floor at the moment, I could pretty much sit here and know to a T what that is going to cost. So, yeah, we see in our financial modelling, which is just at the moment, it's still very high level, but we do see that there is potential there from a Veolia point of view. But also we see that there's potential there to solve a problem. So, and, you know, I think in terms of the Northern Territory, it's still one of the few jurisdictions nationally that that has publicly owned and run facilities.
Great. Any other questions? Yeah. Hey, Emma.
Where does recycling fit in?
Good question. Recycling still fits. and it fits in terms of it's not going to landfill. Now, right throughout the theme of this symposium is where do we find markets for that recycling? But more directly, the tenor of the conversation is typically, well, how do we get it back to Darwin? Well, why do we need to get it back to Darwin? I think it should be the question. You know, so if you're looking at a centralised waste management facility, and let's just say hypothetically it was sitting in Mataranka and it was servicing regional communities within a 1,000-kilometre radius, and you aggregate it in Mataranka, why would that then need to go to Darwin? And I think that's probably the question that needs to be answered. Yeah.
Veolia itself, in your modelling, are you intending to recycle some of these streams or aggregate that waste for recycling?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, but again, the challenge still remains for Veolia as it does everyone else. Yep.
Great. Well, can we please have a round of applause for Nick Walker?